As the MCU expands exponentially and expectations are so high for every new MCU project, I get the pressure that Kevin Feige and whoever he brings in to helm each new project is under to deliver, to keep it fresh and exciting, but at the same time, stick to the formula that everybody shows up for. And I think what's particularly frustrating about Moon Knight is that for the first episode, they do it. They crack it. But then it slips through their fingers like sand. Although I've only watched the first 4 episodes, so maybe they bring it home in episodes 5 and 6. It's really weird to see a show do a complete 180 after the first. Well, I don't think 180 is fair, but just to lose so much momentum after the first episode. And you know what I think the reason is? It's that Jeremy Slater doesn't write all the episodes, and you can feel it. There's supposed to be a writer's room on shows like this, and the idea is that, not everybody can write every episode, so everybody gets on the same page. They are not on the same page. There is nobody on this show at the level of Jeremy Slater, writing-wise, and we all suffer for it. Oh, it's a shame. Because the first episode of Moon Knight is incredible. What a treat. They sent us, as I discussed in my first reaction video, they sent us the first 4 episodes. Really shocking all of us. They would give us so many. And I was particularly confused after I watched episode 1, and I was like, why wouldn't you just leave it at this? Because your reviews would be through the roof. Okay, I'll watch these other 3. I was excited to watch the other 3, and then I was like, uh-oh. But with the first episode, Jeremy Slater, who comes from Umbrella Academy, he writes it with the same kind of aggressive, energetic cleverness that has made that show such a hit. It's like Umbrella Academy level good and quirky, and it's just great. I just love it, the first episode. Slater and director Moha Diab brilliantly introduce Marvel's first European superhero, and he's of, I think, Egyptian descent. It's not clear. And you see in the comics, Marc Spector is Jewish. And I know that representation is important to a number of you. And Oscar Isaac spoke to that in the press conference. I believe he said that Stephen Grant had an apartment in a Jewish neighborhood in London. But if Oscar Isaac hadn't said that during the press conference, I never would have known it, because there isn't a single mention or reference to Marc Spector being Jewish in the actual show, at least in the first 4 episodes. It's not at all in there. Stephen Grant works in a museum gift shop, but is a hobby Egyptologist, and he seems to be much better than hobby level. No spoilers in this review. I'll be breaking down each episode as they air. Well, Marc Spector, he doesn't actually have any personality, which is a real missed opportunity, because, it just makes it very lopsided between Stephen and Marc. You're like, Marc Spector just seems to be Oscar Isaac. All right, so anyway. In the first episode, I loved this idea of recognizing the large North African, Middle Eastern, and Southwest Asian communities that are now very much a part of Europe, both by choice and as refugees. To see Stephen Grant running through a countryside straight out of The Sound of Music and having a funny action adventure is not only thrilling, but has cultural meaning and is something fresh and new in the MCU. But after episode 1, Jeremy Slater hightails it out of there. He returns for the final episode script. So I hope that one is just as good. And I always tell you it's important how you end. But with the week-to-week show, that could be interesting. But still, that will cement how people feel about this show. So maybe it'll begin and end really strong. Bookended by Slater. But with his exit, the quality of the show after episode 1, at least through episode 4, and its uniqueness take a total nosedive. And on that note, during the Moon Knight press tour, Mohamed Diab made headlines calling out Wonder Woman 1984 and Black Adam for not having true Egyptian representation, Mohamed Diab being Egyptian. But having watched the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight, 2 of which are directed by Diab, and no disrespect to Diab, he's a very good director, but Moon Knight has the same level of representation as those 2 other projects. I mean, it's crazy to call them out and then this is what you have? You would think that Moon Knight would be holding a straight flush in terms of Egyptian representation with comments like that. It's got like 2 pair, maybe even just 1 pair. Anyway, we don't see very much Egypt. The only actual Egyptian characters that we see, because they never clarify I think Marc Spector's an American. But the only Egyptian characters that we see outside of female lead May Calamawy, who is half Egyptian, half Palestinian, they're cliche thugs, and that's really unfortunate. And when the Egyptian gods appear, well, it seems the show only had enough of a budget to bring Khonshu to life while we get the cheap version of the rest of the pantheon. At one point, when they're all together, I felt like I was watching bad, overambitious community theater. I'm like, you can't afford to do this scene, you should have cut it. After episode 1, also gone is the museum, and largely Stephen Grant, who is far more interesting than Marc Spector, who again doesn't seem to have any personality. Plus, with all the clips that have been released, too many clips, you've pretty much seen all the costume scenes in episodes 1 and 4. It's mostly Marc and Stephen running around. Also, I think the changes to who Mr. Knight is are going to really annoy some Moon Knight fans. I didn't care for the changes, and I'm not even a Moon Knight fan. Let's just say they've really streamlined Marc Spector, and I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I do appreciate the show addressing mental illness and not shying away from how devastating it is for Marc and Stephen, especially Stephen. And Oscar Isaac does an excellent job making us truly believe these are two different people inhabiting the same body. And if you were to get rid of one of the personalities, it would be like killing someone. It's, also questions about, artificial intelligence, if that's a true life form, really fascinating moral quandaries. But when Marc and Stephen start to try and find a way to share that body and Layla, well, things get morally messy and way too complex and adult for a Disney character in a Disney show. There are things going on here that I think would be difficult to explain to some younger viewers. It's just very, very, it's like, tough choices that are not ideal. And you will see when you watch the show. And also, there's no emphasis on Marc Spector and Stephen Grant getting professional help, which I think is really bad. And to some degree, villainizing professional help, which we'll discuss when we see the episodes. But that also is a problem, because someone who has this serious a mental illness should definitely be seeing someone. After episode 1, episode 4 is my second favorite. There's kind of a cool scene in episode 3, but I was so distracted by it being green screen, because if they could only do it via green screen, but I shouldn't have been able to feel that it was green screen. I'm like, it's a green screen. And that kind of detracted from the coolness of that scene. But anyway, episode 4 has some particularly dark and gory moments, which as a fan of ancient Egyptian culture and history, I thought were pretty neat. And I was surprised to see a Disney MCU show go there. I was like, wow. And a twist that, quite frankly, should have happened, I would say, in episode 3, or ideally even at the end of episode 2, to really give us enough space in a 6-episode series to deal with that new element, right? I think as it is, instead the reveal will elicit some eye rolls and groans, because you're like, now how are we going to get this done with just 2 more episodes and still resolve everything that you've already introduced in the first 4? I think that it's... as I said it again in my first reaction video, I can only assume that they want to have a second season to introduce something like that so late. Also, I'm not quite sure how Moon Knight can fit into the MCU at large, or even a corner of it, or even create his own corner, because his powers are poorly defined, and here he's just presented as Khonshu's very reluctant muscle, and he has no goals of his own. It would almost seem like for the character to continue, it would be not what he wanted. So you're like, how can I root for that if he's so unhappy? What saves Moon Knight and will likely keep people invested week to week, in addition to the always hope that a Marvel Easter egg will pop up, is the quality of the acting. It's very good acting. Oscar Isaac is excellent as always, and the hope that Stephen will come back keeps us going through the Marc scenes. And while I think it would have been better to cast an Egyptian actor in Ethan Hawke's role, again, it just seems like a westernization of the story. Hawke does an amazing job. He's so good. He's so good here with his gravelly Harrison Ford-esque voice. And he even makes his ridiculous prop cane work. I'm like, I know that's a prop. It looks like a prop. It looks like a theme park prop for like a theme park stage show instead of a movie prop. I just can't believe that they were like, oh, it's done. Here, you can carry this around. I would be like, you got to work on this more. As for May Calamawy, it's great, again, to have an actual Egyptian, half Palestinian, that's her background, to have an actor in the main cast who represents like that. But we're getting to a point where a lot of the MCU female characters are starting to seem very similar, particularly the love interests. Calamawy just doesn't make the role pop, nor is she given enough or any poppable moments, in my opinion, to compete with Isaac and Hawke. I'm not even quite sure why her character is there, except for the obligatory needs to have a love interest situation. But maybe episodes 5 and 6 will change my mind. So Moon Knight starts off as the new Loki, but then quickly becomes the new Hawkeye. But at least Hawkeye had established Marvel characters and a very big fan favorite showing up in Kate Bishop. And I know there's a very I don't know how big it is, although the comic actually does sell pretty well, as some of you pointed out. But Moon Knight has his fans. Although Kate Bishop was so comics accurate that was exciting. But I don't think that, from what I've read of Moon Knight, I don't think this is comics accurate to the degree that's going to get people excited. It's going to get them to defend this show till the death. you know what I mean. You know how fandoms are. So yeah, I mean, Moon Knight has no MCU references, not even any Marvel Comics references for the first 4 episodes. There's one city that gets name checked. So that's my review of Moon Knight episodes 1 through 4, and I sure hope that episodes 5 and 6 bring it home strong. Share your own thoughts down below, subscribe today, and be sure to watch the first episode with me live. The first episode is incredible. You're not going to want to miss it. It's so good, and you're going to question the rest of my review until you see the other episodes. But we're going to be watching it live on Wednesday at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I hope you'll join me. And then, of course, for my episode breakdown. All right, again, share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.